Good evening, everybody. How's it going? Probably just a quick chat. Those of you who have been following for a little while, I realize that this whole video might seem absurd. What I'm about to talk about, I can accept that. I'm gonna do it anyway. So for the two or three of you who are maybe interested, in this exploration of noise music, specifically Merzbow, I've been doing a Substack. Share screen. I've been doing a Substack, or the Merzstack is what I've called it. I've been listening to, the plan is to listen to an absolute boatload of Merzbow throughout the years, or throughout the year rather. I've already done, I think, 13 different albums, 14 different albums. Doesn't have an amount there, but it's been incredible. Every year I end up listening to some of his stuff, and this year has just been a lot of fun to kind of dig down into these kind of depths and really try to think of articulating some of my thoughts, some of the thoughts that go through my head when I'm listening to this stuff, in some sort of potentially interesting way. The Substack is free. This isn't me trying to get 50 cents out of somebody or anything. But it's been really fun, not only in the kind of thinking about what his noise and music has meant to me over the years, but like I said, really looking to, I don't know, just think about it in maybe a different way, and how do you articulate that, and how do you get away from saying certain things time and time again. I will say this. The reason I'm doing this video is for this 9 Studies of Ephemeral Resonance Volume 1. I just finished listening to Volume 3. I listened to Volume 2 yesterday. I tried to put something down for Volume 2, and I just really couldn't. This series so far is taking me in a direction that I'm honestly shocked by. I'm surprised. This is where some of this stuff is maybe going to sound absurd to the majority of you out there. Agree with it or not, with any sort of artist, yes, they have a very distinct palette, but it's how they use that palette and techniques that they use, that there is a lot of differences in Merzbow albums. Not as a general rule, but there are definitely eras to his sound. From the late 70s, the 80s had very distinct sounds. The 90s were very singular, and on and on. A part of that is due to his interests. A part of that is due to early in a career versus later in a career. A part of that is experimenting with different things. So moving away from analog and going digital for a time, incorporating live percussion and live drumming with his soundscapes, I guess. Animal rights. He's always been an animal rights activist. Exploration into Japanese like bondage, S&M, that sort of thing early on in his career. He's a hell of an artist and someone that's meant a lot to me throughout my life when I've kind of discovered him. Noise in general had a pretty big impact on me, still does to this day, as you'll hear about in a minute. I think that there's a lot to be said for the enjoyment of a genre like this, what it maybe does for an individual versus your willingness to kind of explore things, to sit with yourself, to sit in this sound. I've talked about it before, I believe, on the channel. But there's part of it for me is part of it for me is kind of my relation to sound in general. I've always, for the longest time, I've had tinnitus. I've had a form of tinnitus that I did some damage to my ears when I was playing in bands as 15, 16-year-old, way too loud. There's constantly a ring in there. Most of the time I don't notice it unless I specifically listen to it. So there's some things that are going to have a bigger effect on me due to that, I think. One of those things, and also just always a very active mind when it comes to maybe all sorts of thinking and self-critical and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think a number of those things play into why this genre of music appeals to me so much. It's very much in your face. It's very much a musical form that takes into consideration like maybe performance art, just very much setting a mood. A lot of kind of noise musicians, there's a definite mood that they're attempting to set in amongst kind of exploration of sound in general. What the hell am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I'm fucking blown away that after all of my digging into noise music as a whole, and Merzbow specifically would be one of the constants since probably 95-ish, 95, 96-ish. He has a new series coming out on a label called Urashima, based out of Italy. First thing I'll talk about with Urashima is I'm floored that I've never heard of them before, because when I go through their catalog, I'm seeing Atrax Morgue. I'm seeing obviously Merzbow. I was seeing Soulmania in here. I see Masana, Incapacitants. Grim is a name that I don't know. Obe. I'm seeing Space Machine, Unbelievable Space Machine, CCCC, etc., etc., etc. So Violent Onsen Geisha. I'm seeing so many artists and noise artists that I'm familiar with. I'm surprised that I've never discovered this label or stumbled onto this label until just now. Going down this path of listening to Merzbow, trying to kind of jump through eras. I did a lot on the Merzstack where we focused on kind of the 1980s stuff, talked about some collaborations, a brief kind of sidestep to talk about Ron from Records and the Book and kind of his influence on the kind of noise community in North America. But then his performances with like Runzelstern and Gurgelstock and Merzbow, things like that. So trying to sort of jump around a little bit and experience different eras. Stumbled onto this. It is a proposed 9-volume set. 6 of them have been released so far. They come out on incredibly limited edition. I think there's 99. Is that what it said there? Yeah, 99 hand number copies, deluxe wooden box set. So they're doing that for each one of them. And there's some shots of kind of the box itself with the CD housed inside and what you get with this volume. For example, a couple of art pieces and it looks like a print possibly. The album artwork is pretty much the same across the 6 releases so far. They all have the same text at the top. They've all got the kanji, I guess, on the side here. This image that looks like it's set where this is maybe a piece of mat board over the top with maybe a print. So already he's dealing with some art in a way that I don't recall ever seeing from him. There was this 13 Japanese Birds series that is really, really great as well. That was kind of a real deep exploration into using live drumming with his noise. It wasn't necessarily the first time that it happened, but it was one of the big times where it was really presented that this is a new era. This feels like that. This feels like this marks a new era. And when I listened to Volume 2, a thought that really crossed my mind was, is this going to be the last series that he does? There's a real sense of, I mean, again, just focusing on the art for a second, there's some historical context going on here. He's maybe placing himself and noise as a genre in kind of like its place in the past and part of the Japanese culture now. So there's a lot of that playing around. There's also the 3 albums so far have had very different focuses. This third one that I just listened to, so this is number 1. Let's go back and listen and have a look at some other ones here. Out of the 3 that I've listened to so far, number 2 has really taken me to places that I'm kind of speechless on the effect that this particular album had on me. It's incredible when an artist performing this long can still do something and kind of, I'm going to say this lovely word, recontextualize what they've been doing in a completely different way. As I was listening to this, it really felt like, thanks very much, everybody. After this series is done, I'm packing it in. Noise music is closed. That chapter is done. It now has its place firmly in history. There's this, not melancholy, but there's really this finality to the sound and the things that he's doing in here and the nods. I can't remember if it was the first, or I think this one only has 2 pieces on it. Yeah, 2 pieces. I don't remember if it was Scent of Plums or Falling Leaves, but he sort of goes through, I think it might have been the second track. He sort of goes through his own eras. You get these it was the first track, because I did start writing about it and then I just couldn't figure out what else to say. So in the first track, you can sense this is him, a nod to the 80s era of himself. Here he's doing some stuff that's really reminiscent of the 90s, 2000s, etc. You can feel him moving through his own career in this almost retrospective. I mean, it sounds so incredibly fucking cheesy when you articulate it. I think that was part of why I stopped writing about it. I couldn't figure out how to put some of the feelings into words, which is arguably the crux of writing. But I just couldn't articulate it very well. And even now it feels ridiculous talking about it to some degree, but an amazing album. He's exploring some textures that we've heard before. He's also exploring a lot of sounds that we haven't. And I think the other thing that really stands out for me, this is the one that I just listened to before I hit the live stream there. This is volume 3. I feel like he's doing some processing that's much different than anything he's done before. I feel like there's an incredible level of detail and thought being put into these. With this genre, there's a real, I showed up, I had a bunch of stuff, and I just made this racket and I made this sound. And part of the excitement of it is this kind of spontaneity. Part of the excitement for me, no matter what you're looking into, whether it's a modular synth, yes, there's a lot of experiments. If you just plug in a bunch of patch cables, you might come up with something really cool. But when it really gets intriguing is when you know someone has specifically chosen the things to really kind of sculpt a piece of music or a sound. And I feel like that's what he's doing in this series so far. He's spending a lot of time sculpting the sound, editing the sound. There's a real kind of digital feel to the editing. It doesn't feel kind of like tape splicing. There may be moments in one of the other albums where he was sort of there was another track on, I think maybe volume 1, where it felt like he was going through techniques within experimental and noise music throughout its life and utilizing some of those elements. But overall, though, this feels very, very, very precise and very, very thought out. I'm incredibly excited about this series. I bought the first 3 volumes digitally here on Bandcamp. I put the link to the Urashima Bandcamp. I also put the link to the Merzstack in the description of this video. Yeah, I'm on their mailing list. I'm hoping what happened with 13 Japanese Birds, every single month for 13 months, there would be a new Merzbow album released. Once the entire series came out, they ended up doing a box set collecting all of the albums from the series. I'm hoping that that's what happens here as well. I would love to have some. This is one of those items. I even if I only manage to pick up one of the CDs, I would love to see the physical copy. I think that experience will be even more, give you more of an ability to get drawn in. Of course, because these things are limited, it's being really played up by Urashima in the descriptions and things, collector's item, etc., which is a little bit unfortunate that they're sort of, I get it, everybody's got to make a buck, but it's a little bit unfortunate that we know that this is what this stuff is. We know that it's collector's items and things like that. Oh, look at this. Doesn't have Merzbow on the front there. That's unusual. That must have been a mistake. No, it's not on there either. I wonder what that means. That's volume 5, and then finally volume 6. So I'm hoping there's some collection at the end of all of this. I do want to try to get my hands on one of these as they come out. I'm hoping that I'll be successful. But this is for anybody who's been following along, who's even had a passing interest in stuff that I've talked about through the Merzstack, or had a passing interest in things that I've talked about here, noise music related. I'd say go and give this one a listen. Chaos and Comics, I'm talking to you. I believe that Maudit Part has listened to this as well. I'm just looking at his comments. Shout out to Maudit Part for posting some comments on the Merzstack as well, to give a little bit of extra context and a little bit of backstory on some of the albums I've been talking about. So make sure that if you do subscribe to it, read the comments as well too. There's some really great information in there, translations from books, etc. I think that's all I've got to say about it. I'm just stunned, and I'm really, really enjoying this series so far. 3 albums into the 9, 6 have been released already. Well worth your time to sit with. Yeah, I think that's it. Tomorrow we're doing a live chat over on LahRasa's channel. I think it's been a couple of weeks since we've had a Sunday hangout. So if you're around and you're interested to come and tune in, that takes place, I believe she said it, for 2 p.m.-ish Central Standard Time. But join us for that. And then tomorrow night, I should have a regular Sunday wrap with a bunch of stuff that I've been reading, including a little teaser there, I guess. I finally got Her Frankenstein from the Smudge label. I had ordered this quite a while ago. It took forever to come in. And then noticed a couple of days later, they got in a copy of Merzstack, which is the 3rd in the Smudge. And I've read both of them. This is my favorite out of the 3 of them so far. So looking forward to kind of showing this stuff off and talking about that in both the chat and the Sunday wrap. So thanks very much, everybody. And we'll talk to you